Good morning, friends, and welcome to Rotary Botanical Gardens. My name is Becky Kronberg, and I'm the Executive Director here at the Gardens. I'm not sure that the weather today could be any more perfect, do you think? Such a glorious day for us to celebrate an exciting project here at the Gardens. As you know, Rotary Botanical Gardens is a gem right here in Janesville, Wisconsin. We're pleased to welcome over 100,000 people to the Gardens each year from all over the country, and other countries, of course. Now, in our 29th year of existence, we look forward to our 30th year with eager anticipation. Rotary Botanical Gardens was founded in 1989 by Dr. Robert Yar, a retired orthodontist here in Janesville. Please help me acknowledge Dr. Yar and his incredible vision, for without him, we wouldn't be here today in the Gardens that he poured his heart and soul into developing and saw through to fruition. Let's give him a big round of applause. I'm not sure. Okay. I'd like to take a moment to recognize a few other guests who are here with us today. We have 16 individuals who serve on the board of directors at Rotary Botanical Gardens. Would our board members please stand to be recognized when I call your name? Patty Schumacher, board chair. Dave Benlin, vice chair. Jennifer Johns, secretary. Pat Cameron, treasurer. Mick Gilbertson, Mary Downing, Cullen Slapak, Heather Longhenry, Randy Hughes, Dr. Robert McAllister, Raleigh McClellan, Carrie Drasic, Chris Williams, Gary Smith, Gary Bursell, and Dr. Patrick Sartorius. Thank you for your service to Rotary Botanical Gardens. We are also blessed to have an incredible group of volunteers here at the Gardens who so generously give of their time and talents. Without them, we would cease to exist, and I mean that very seriously. Not a day goes by that a volunteer isn't here at the Gardens to help in some capacity. Would everyone who is a garden volunteer please stand? Join me in giving them a round of applause. I'd also like to give a shout out to our dedicated Rotary Botanical Gardens staff who work so hard each day. Please stand to be recognized, and let's also give them a warm round of applause. And now for the reason we're all gathered here today, to celebrate the new Rotary Botanical Gardens Wellness Garden. This beautiful space that you're sitting in right now was an incredible gift given by two major donors, Ruth Ann Potts and Mercyhealth. Thank you all so very much. You'll be hearing much more about about and from these donors shortly. Now you see the beauty of this garden, but are probably wondering a little bit more about it. At this time, I'd like to invite Mark Dwyer, our Director of Horticulture, to the podium. Mark is truly the mastermind behind all of our beautiful garden spaces. Mark?
Well, good morning, everyone. Great to have such a nice turnout. Before I get going, we've got a weed issue a little distance away. I'm hoping everyone can help out. Actually, I think it's important to mention, Becky alluded to volunteerism here and how it's continued to be such an important thing for the Gardens. Whether it's gardening or tour guides, our board of directors, our various committees, our educators, over these 29 years of history, these folks have been so instrumental in creating such a beautiful space. Now, the space you're sitting in, I want to give you a little bit of history because it was something that we've been mulling over for many years. And the reality, once the funding was secured, it moved very quickly, and we're so excited to have it looking beautiful on such a nice day today. But the talk of a wellness garden started occurring about 10 years ago. We were interested in developing a space that would serve a lot of specific purposes, but certainly be engaging and interesting for everyone. And there is some confusion when you hear the term healing garden or wellness garden. What does that really entail? Because I think many of us would argue that just immersing yourself in your own home landscapes or really anywhere here at the Botanic Garden is restorative, it's healing, you feel better, and that's one of the reasons people come to the Gardens. But this space was created to specifically engage the senses, provide an all-accessible opportunity for our guests, including a demographic I felt we weren't serving exceedingly well, and that's some of the mobility impaired guests that could maneuver through the Gardens. But what you're sitting in is a space that includes a lot of Excellent concrete and hard surface paths for accessibility. I'll discuss the raised beds in a minute here, but the design for this actually occurred about 8 years ago and was put on the back burner, and we never forgot about it. And the former space was an arboretum, and some of you might remember back 29 years ago when some trees were poked into the ground out here. And due to this garden, it necessitated removing some trees, but the improvement in this space, again, is meant to provide not only a beautiful garden that provides everything I mentioned, a restoration of the senses, heavy sensory focus. You're not catching any whiffs of anything today, but there's a lot of fragrant plants out here. And the focus is on engaging the senses and making sure that the plants are accessible and there for all of our guests. And that lends itself to the retaining walls off to my right. These 4 retaining walls that were designed are at 2 different heights, 24 inches and 36 inches. The intent with the lower beds is for accessibility from a wheelchair or gardening while sitting. And if you've not seen those beds up close, there's a nice little cap where people can sit and garden next to themselves or behind themselves. And the 36-inch beds are meant for what we term belly button height gardening. And it sounds sort of funny, but as we age, the idea of getting down and back up, doing traditional gardening becomes a little more problematic. So the intent with these taller beds is gardening literally at belly button height. All these beds are 4 foot wide, which allows for gardening from both sides. And it's a huge amount of square footage. They're quite deceptive. There's a lot of things happening there. What's interesting, though, is I'll allude to the entire garden. Every plant, with the exception of the trees that you're seeing in the 4 quadrants and on all 4 of those raised beds, the median age of our volunteers, the planters that installed these, is around 12 years old. We had children. There was a summer school program out of Harrison Elementary. We had St. Paul's had a bunch of kids here, I think 7th graders. We had some community service folks, and we engaged, and this is not unusual for us. We have volunteers from all different backgrounds, all different ages, and what's exciting is they really got into this space. We were trying to explain what a wellness garden was and how important their involvement is in this planting, which is filled out quite nicely, I think you see. About 80 different types of plants out here, lots of visual focus, but again, the intent with the space, I think most importantly, isn't necessarily displaying color, which certainly engages sight, but it's providing a sensory experience that includes fragrance, the tactile, the sense of touch. We're always wary about taste. We're not interested in people sampling due to liability issues, so we're not. You always have to be careful with that. But this space allows for extensive programming potential. The idea of engaging and reaching out to user groups that can access the garden very readily from the road here and ultimately be immersed in the space immediately. And our education department will develop programs for a wide range of people to enjoy this garden. So it's in its infancy, but the potential is really unlimited. This is our first garden development, our most recent garden development in 7 years. So we're so excited to transition the Arboretum into this wellness garden. And I know it's getting a little hot out here, so I'll cut it to about an hour with my comments, and then we'll move on. And the most important thing we're doing today is recognizing our donors, absolutely, and the role of our volunteers and continue to perpetuate an excellent garden. But a garden of this caliber, the installation, again, went very quickly, and that was due to a lot of great folks that were involved. And I'll read through the list. There are representatives of these organizations here. For the sake of time, though, I'll just read through. Angus Young and Associates, Katie Udell, helped take my chicken scratch sketches from 8-10 years ago to turn them into hardscape drawings that we could get out for bid. So we've had a great relationship with Angus Young and Associates. Paulson Kimball Construction were the primary contractors. Fanning Excavating, Ivan Rice and Sons Concrete, Crimson Valley Landscaping out of Rockford, Urban Landscaping out of Evansville, Evergreen Irrigation, Rockford. They were here yesterday. That's why you still see some irrigation heads that we're working on. One of our grounds people, Robert Korth, did the electrical, which was a huge help. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Mr. Maury Fry, who's in the crowd, who kept everyone moving and very instrumental with a lot of things that happen here. So we appreciate his involvement. But again, aside from this 10-year process in developing this space, the programming potential I mentioned, the sensory focus, let's all meet here one calendar year, we'll do July 18th next year, it will look entirely different. As many of our garden spaces, the intent is to make a lot of different things happen out here. So we don't want people to ever feel they've seen the wellness garden, or really the vast majority of Rotary gardens. The transition potential will be incorporated into that. And I neglected to mention, aside from the sensory focus, a huge thing we'll be doing is gardening as we age is a huge topic. Not only the adaptability of raised beds, but specific ergonomic gardening tools. There's a lot of great things we can show our volunteers and our visiting public on how we continue to enjoy and get the benefits of gardening, utilizing this space and a lot of things I just mentioned. So again, a lot of excellent things happening. I do want to mention August 8th, we have our 4th annual Horticultural Therapy Symposium. People from all over the region come to this, and these are professionals with assisted care facilities, other locations where they're coming up with ideas for their clientele. It's been very well attended, and this garden will be the nexus for many of our displays, our discussions, and our presentations. And I do believe I think we have a wedding booked in August out in this space too. It was so beautiful, it was not a hard sell, to be honest. With that, I think Becky, back to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark. As I mentioned earlier, 2 wonderful donors provided gifts to make the Wellness Garden a reality. An active volunteer for 17 years, Ruth Ann Potts has served the gardens in many capacities, from assisting with weddings and scheduling, volunteering in the gift gallery, to being a member of the board of directors. She served and worn many hats. She's helped with many committees, helped in the office, and has worked as and with volunteers. She collects and processes Century grocery store receipts and submits them for the gardens as part of their Funds for Friends program each month as well. Her incredible generosity and unwavering support is evident throughout Rotary Botanical Gardens. We owe her a debt of gratitude. I invite Ruth Ann Potts to say a few words. Welcome and thank you, Ruth Ann.
To be in front of a mic. That's not good. For 60 years, Janesville has been my home base, and I've watched it grow and change, and I think Rotary Gardens is a classic example of that very thing. I have had the opportunity to be involved, and those opportunities are wonderful. I recommend to all of you to get involved in things in this community because we can make it grow even more. Now for this garden, I have very hard hopes that the guests of this garden will be able to have inner peace. Isn't that so needed in this world? Thank you for coming today.
Thank you so much, Ruth Ann. The second major donor to our wellness garden is Mercyhealth. A long-standing garden supporter, Mercyhealth has stepped forward to support this wellness garden with a very generous gift. We are so grateful for their contribution to Rotary Botanical Gardens. Representing Mercyhealth today is Javon Bay, President and CEO. Join me in giving Mercyhealth and Javon a huge round of applause as he comes forward to the podium.
Well, good morning, everyone. It is truly a beautiful day, and on behalf of our entire Mercyhealth family, it is my pleasure and honor to be able to be here to make a special announcement. Actually, we're all here to dedicate this beautiful wellness garden, but I have the privilege of announcing that Mercyhealth is dedicating our donation to the wellness garden in honor and celebration of one of our dearest friends and board members, Roland McCullen. And Raleigh and I have known each other for almost 30 years, since 1989 when I came to work at Mercy. Immediately I recognized that Raleigh was a very intelligent guy, and he also had a tremendous amount of integrity. And I can give many examples of that, but if I had to say one value that guides Raleigh's life is integrity. And it's been a great example for me and many others at Mercy. He's also one of the most generous and caring people that I've been able to come to know, and it kind of reminded me of a statement of St. Francis of Assisi when he says, "For in giving, it's how we receive." And I think that Raleigh really embodies these words more than anyone actually that I know, and I've had 30 years to watch that. So it's very fitting that his name, along with Ruth Ann, will grace this garden designed to engage the senses and to provide maximum accessibility for everyone, so everyone can enjoy it. I think that that's very important, especially coming from healthcare. I think it's important whether people are in wheelchairs or canes or crutches or whatever, that they can truly enjoy this. I was telling Jen Haw, one of our vice presidents, that when I had shoulder surgery at Mercy, and after I went home, actually, I think they kicked me out in about 6 hours, but anyway, when I went home after major shoulder surgery, I actually would come out here and walk the gardens and take my shirt off so my scar could heal, and I really loved it. I mean, it was really, I have very fond memories of rehabbing out here from surgery in the gardens. So going back to Raleigh, I guess I just want to say that I've watched him through the last 30 years here at the Gardens. He's had a very successful career in banking. He's had a passion for this community that has benefited thousands of people that I've been able to observe, and through all of it, getting to know Raleigh and Audrey and his family, he's remained a devoted husband and loving father to his children, 2 daughters and a son. But I best know Raleigh in his role as a board member. Raleigh has served on our board at Mercy for 47 years. That's a long time, 3 years short of a half a century. So talk about a lot of change, he's seen it. And he's been our board chairman for the last 35 years. And I have to say that for 30 of those years, Raleigh has put up with me as CEO, and that hasn't been easy. In fact, I think it kind of qualifies him up for sainthood, frankly, right up with St. Francis. We've had many engaging times through the last 30 years, but he's been our rock on the board. He's truly been our stable force. You don't have kind of what was then a relatively modest-sized hospital grow from treating 80,000 patients a year to where we're over 2.5 million patient visits, and we've grown astronomically. In fact, Mercy was ranked as the fastest-growing health system in the United States for many, many, many years for what's called same-store growth, growing from within ourselves. So there's a lot of change. There's a lot of challenges with that. And Raleigh was my rock through all of that, and the rock for the board. But despite his very busy career in banking, where he has served as chairman of banks in town as they've evolved from different ownership, Raleigh, I watched him. He always maintained, going back to Ruth Ann's comment, involvement in many community activities to make the community better. He served as a Boy Scout on the Mississippi Council as board chair. And when he served as board chair, he drafted me to be on the board. But what he drafted me for was we were going to have this jamboree, Boy Scout jamboree. And somebody for the Boy Scouts came up with the idea, as a fundraiser, if we had the president and CEO of Mercyhealth have to kiss a real live pig on the lips, how much would people pay for that? And so people donated well for that, and it was so successful they kept having rounds. And I can tell you, by the end of that day, that pig and I got pretty close, So but we had a lot of interesting times for the last 30 years. But Raleigh would also do things like give pontoon rides on the river to the Scouts. He would be the camp cook. I think many of you know that he's been a member of the Grumpies here since 1989 when the Gardens began. He was chairman of the United Way, active supporter of the UW Badgers, active churchgoer. You can see that Raleigh's been highly engaged in this community, and I think what we see here at the Gardens. So we wanted to honor Raleigh with dedicating our contribution to him. And Raleigh made a comment at a talk that he gave, actually that we were at with the Boy Scouts not too long ago for the Mississippi Council, and he said, Javon would be a son that anyone would like to have. Well, I'd like to say, Raleigh, that frankly I'd be one of the luckiest children in the world to have had you as a father, because I've had you as a mentor the last 30 years, and I think it just would have been fantastic to have had you as a dad. So thank you, Raleigh. Thank you very much. And we're very lucky that you called Janesville home. Janesville's a better place. Thousands of people have benefited because of your commitment. And before I close, I'd like to thank Ruth Ann. Ruth Ann, I can tell, is a straightforward woman. She's already, just on her little walk in here, told me ways that I can make improvements at Mercy, which I'm going to do. and I'll send her a loving follow-up note to that effect. And so I'm sure that she's had a big impact over these last 17 years at the Gardens and has helped raise the Gardens to new heights. So I want to thank you and congratulations, Ruth Ann. Congratulations, Raleigh. And on behalf of myself and the entire Mercyhealth family, we want to thank you both for your contributions and your service, and we want you to know that you're appreciated and loved more than you know. Thank you.
We've had a bronze plaque produced, which will be permanently mounted at the edge of the planting bed here on my left on a brick pedestal a little bit later this summer. Javon, would you please join me in officially unveiling the Wellness Garden plaque? There you go. All right. With this unveiling, we officially dedicate the Wellness Garden on this day, Wednesday, July 18th, 2018. The focal point of this garden is the lovely fountain, which sits here in the center, which Ruth Ann Potts has donated. We'd like Ruth Ann to do the honors of plugging it in and turning it on for us. All right, and there it begins. Please feel free to come up and take a closer look at the plaque following the event today. It features both photographs of Ruth Ann and Raleigh, along with a description of their garden involvement. In addition, the plaque includes the following text: Rotary Botanical Gardens Wellness Garden, designed to maximize engagement of the senses, provide special programming, promote healthy living, all while providing maximum accessibility. The Wellness Garden is given by Ruth Ann Potts and Mercyhealth, dedicated July 2018. Let's celebrate one last time with a round of applause for this amazing gift that the Gardens has received. In addition to these two major gifts which made the garden possible, there are other contributions and components that we'd like to share today. I asked Mark Dwyer to come back to the podium to share that information with you.
Well, folks, a couple more features to the garden, and we do encourage you to meander around once the ceremony's over. But off to my right, there's a path that leads you towards our daylily collection, which is at peak right now. There's a walking labyrinth that was installed in that space, and that was donated by Elaine Strasberg. And I just wanted to read briefly the plaque that will be applied to that labyrinth. This is a quote from Henry David Thoreau: "Pursue some path, however narrow and crooked, in which you can walk with love and reverence. Dedicated in honor and memory of Vietnam veterans," from Elaine Strasberg. And if you don't know what a labyrinth is, I've got a little information on it, but in essence, it's an ancient design. This is called a Sixth Circuit Abingdon labyrinth. And when you walk through it, it's not a maze. You follow the route, you end up in a large center, and then you can reverse your route. They've been used for 4,000 years. They promote right and left brain thinking. There's a lot of meditation and other things applied to them. But as soon as that was installed, it's been actively used by everyone. And even wheelchairs can access this and parallel the lines. And it's only 24 feet in diameter, but it's an excellent addition to the garden itself. You may note in the four quadrants, the centerpiece are oaks. Those are hybrid oaks. And the original selection was out of Illinois. And these are called Regal Prints. And if we meet in about 20 years, what you're going to see is these will be about 35 feet tall and only 10 to 12 feet wide. So very upright exclamation points. And those already have been dedicated. One is for Ruth Ann's mother, Dorothea Potts, Patricia Hughes, who passed away recently, for Wayne and Lois Gilmore, and Rosemary and Carl Gilmore are in the crowd today. Great to have them here. And also the Mercy Hospital School of Nursing alumni purchased the other. So there's four plaques that are positioned in the front of each of these quadrants if you'd like to read those. And off to my left, we also have the start of 3 powder-coated benches. And these are made in Monroe, Wisconsin at Production Grinding and Machining. They have the Rotary Gardens logo, but from left to right, we have Raleigh's bench. We have a bench for Ruth Ann with her quote about inner peace. And off further in the distance, in the shade there, we have a bench for Sandy Bowen. Sandy's husband, Jeff, is in the crowd today. Great to have him here as well. I do want to mention that these 3 benches are the start of the 12 bench potential. There's bench pads positioned in great spots throughout the gardens. I'd be remiss if I didn't say they are memorial opportunities, so talk to us if you're interested, or dedication opportunities. We hope to include more over the coming years. And with that, I think I covered just about everything. The fountain, I should mention, the fountain itself, our goal is to expand with a collecting pool at the base, so you'll get one more level of spill. This is an auditory component in the garden, by the way, meant to promote soothing, and it's a focal point from all 4 directions as you come into the garden. So, the garden being very symmetrical, the intent is that consistently being the centerpiece and the focal point. Back to Becky.
Thank you all for joining us here today for this special dedication. You're welcome to celebrate with refreshments back near the raised planting beds here immediately following the dedication. We are forever grateful to all who made this garden a reality. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your day.